All right, let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Rudy Giuliani. How are you, sir?
How are you?
President's attorney as well. And it seems like over the weekend you made some news that it seems like you're moving more and more against the idea of the president sitting down with Bob Mueller.
That could be true, yeah. We haven't made a final decision. There's still a slight opening. What I said was we've been going now for a year and a half, that other investigation 9 months before it. They haven't come up with a scintilla of evidence, no facts, that the president had anything to do with Russians. As the president tells me all the time, I don't understand this investigation. I never talked to the Russians. I never did anything with the Russians. How can they be investigating me? Well, that's what we're asking him. Why are you investigating him? You're certainly entitled as a defense lawyer to what's the basis for this investigation. We don't see any. You show us something, we got something to answer to. Otherwise, you're conducting a totally illegitimate investigation. And I think a lot of people have come to that conclusion, including my friend Alan Dershowitz, who has written a fabulous little book about how this would be totally unconstitutional.
Mr. Mayor, you said you still leave open a slight opening. What would that slight opening be?
If they had some narrow questions about collusion where they're confused about, did he find out something, did he know something, did he talk to anyone, we'd be happy to give them answers to that, so long as we knew they were concluding it.
But when you say narrow questions about collusion, are you closing the door on talking about the potential for obstruction of justice?
Well, we think obstruction is just, we just get knocked out legally. I mean, under Article 2, he had the right to fire Comey. Comey said he had the right to fire him. The report would almost say it was a complete abdication of responsibility. He didn't fire him. He was crying out to be fired. And his explanations are perfectly lawful. The Lester Holt interview, which is used very often on NBC, and they cut off the end. In the Lester Holt interview, he gives a total defense. He says, one day after, I did it because it was good for the country, even though I knew it would extend the investigation. And hasn't it extended the investigation?
Yes, it has.
How can you say obstruction?
Trey Gowdy was like, when is this investigation going to be over? If there's no evidence of collusion, then why are we still talking about this? He said, for the good of the people, for the good of this country, we need to end this investigation. Is that going to happen anytime soon? What's the timeline?
This is a hard thing to conclude if you're a prosecutor and if you have the biases and prejudices this group of 13 angry Democrats have. I mean, 36,000 to Hillary crying at her lost party. I mean, you shouldn't be a prosecutor if you cry at a political party, I don't think. But in any event, they have to just come to grips with the fact they are investigating an innocent man. And you can do that forever because you're never going to find any evidence. So somebody's got to put an end to this. I hope they do. Mueller, I see Mueller as a guy surrounded by people he shouldn't have picked. I mean, if the president was making picks for the Supreme Court like he made for his assistants, everyone a partisan, not just Democrat, but a partisan, over-the-top Hillary Democrat. If they should ever do anything with him, I want to see all their texts. I want to see if they're texting the same thing, and I'm willing to bet a dinner that they are. You got 2 or 3 of them that are texting horrible things about Trump.
Yeah. You mentioned the Supreme Court. President has a big pick tonight. Democrats are already out there essentially opposing the nominee before seeing a name and already saying, Dick Blumenthal, who you know well, Democrat from Connecticut, saying that the president farmed this out, outsourced it to the Federalist Society, and that basically right-wingers are making the pick, not the president.
Well, the president asked for recommendations, much like I did when I was mayor from the Bar Association. I wanted to appoint, I appointed 100 judges, and I appointed people who shared my ideology. Strict on crime, bail, tough and hard, none of this turnstile justice, and we reduced crime by 60%. If I had appointed the crazy liberals that were being appointed to the court, the city would still be the way it is. So you get a right to do that when you get elected. So, of course, he goes to a professional group of great lawyers, Nino Scalia being the star, my good friend Michael Mukasey, part of it. Leonard Leo is of course he's going to give him conservative judges. He didn't get elected as a liberal. If Hillary got elected,
he had the list of 25 in the campaign. He said, "I'll name these people."
Yeah, perfectly legitimate. I went through that list.
Do you know these 4 that he's narrowed down to?
I know of all of them. I know some of them. I know people on the list. They're all superb judges. He could have picked anyone on that list, and I think they would bear scrutiny.
Mr. Mayor, what attribute do you think the president is looking for or at the most in that possible pick?
Well, first of all, he's looking for a really good judge, and he's got it in all 4. He's looking for a conservative, and he should be looking for a conservative. That's why we elected him. And finally, I think he's looking for somebody, obviously, who's young. They all are. And then someone who's going to stick to their principles and maybe occasionally vary them, because that happens, but not in the same way that some of the other justices, and it always seems to happen on the Republican side. The Democrats
They go the wrong
they're
way.
airtight. I mean, they get more liberal by the day, and we always get one who kind of drifts off to the center or even to a little bit to the left.
So which one out of those four would not do that, wouldn't drift?
I think all of them are very conscientious liberals. I kind of have to keep to myself who I think he should appoint because I'm going to support
conscientious conservatives.
Conservatives.
Right, you said liberal.
Oh, gosh, no. The conscientious conservatives, I was going to say conscientious judges, because I think that's the most important thing. They're going to decide it on the law. And finally, I think that I guess you got to think about who gets through, because you don't want to waste it. You don't want to go over to the next time.
Why did you
It's
say
gonna
you
be
didn't
tight.
want to announce one name?
Pardon me?
Why you said you wanted?
Well, I don't want to do it
your
because
pick.
I'm going to support any one of the four. And I have my own personal favorite, and I have the one that I think he's going to support, and I'm not betting on it. I think it's illegal.